Boy, you should know her name. Too focused, she focused on her. Girl, you should know her name. Up late, grinding hard, she's a star. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. Don't you know Miss Williams? It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. Don't you know she's telling you won't heal my body, only soothe my body. All in the soap, all in the soap. Give me one of these. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams. It's Paris, Miss Williams.
All right, peace. All right, you guys. So this is Brother King Simon's information. Okay. All right. I definitely recommend that you go and check out his channel. All right. This is also his information for the books. And all right. Talking about books. All right. If you haven't already, go check out my book. It's also on Amazon. All right. Or if you are in Atlanta, Georgia, and you can come, please wait until January 25th, 2025. I will be doing my book signing at the New Black Wall Street. All right. So save the date. I also will be doing readings and other stuff. So bring your money, bring your coins. I also will have capsules and soaps. I'm about to start making soap right now, actually. So, yeah. Fresh. All right. I will be on Brother King Simon's show. All right. January 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. We also going to be speaking a little bit about my book. He was the first one to get my book. Actually, it was Brother King Simon. So go check me out over there. All right. And I am a spiritual advisor, herbalist, nutritionist, published author. The list goes on. Please go sign up for our beginners intermediate master class tarot, which will be happening January 18th. Okay. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And I am your host. What's going on, you guys? What's happening? Hello. What's going on, y'all? Peace, everybody in the chat. So today is actually, first of all, Patreon, we are reading one of my favorite books, The Four Agreements. I've read this book multiple times, just like I read the other books multiple times. But there's certain books that I just keep in my mental. And The Four Agreements was one of those books that I feel like I needed to speak to my Patreon about. We needed to do a book club. We have a book club over there. And we're having our first book meeting this Friday. Not this Friday. Not tomorrow, next Friday, on the first chapter. And I know I was supposed to wait, but I'm only taking one paragraph from the Four Agreements, the first chapter, and I'm speaking about it, which is today's topic about breaking agreements. I got to change this. Breaking agreements here. I'll change that. Breaking agreements that are fear-based and claiming personal power. Okay, so excuse the title. I will change that when we're done with the video. All right, but it's supposed to be agreements. It says something else. All right, y'all. So let's get straight into it here. All right, breaking agreements that are fear-based and claiming personal power. This is going to be a little personal. And if you would like to share your personal experience, please do. Okay. This is a no judgment free zone. All right. But let's get straight into it. Okay. So in this chapter, it speaks, I'm going to quote it. In your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. Okay. The limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you will tolerate from someone else. If someone abuses you a little more than you abused yourself, you will probably walk away from that person. But if someone abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you will probably stay and tolerate it endlessly. Now, I just want to explain my experience with this one paragraph that really broke, like, it broke that fear-based agreement that I had. And this was before I had my child, right? So uh, around the time that I cut my first set of locks, right? You guys only know, you know me from the fourth set. This is the very first set of locks that I had. I was in a very vulnerable space, and I remember someone saying to me, this is previously someone had said this on the phone. Abusers usually know when someone is vulnerable, and they usually come in exactly at the time to help, but really to manipulate. I went into a very fast relationship. The person love bombed me. Okay. The craziest thing is I wasn't even attracted to this person here at the time. I was, trying to deal with men, and I got with a woman. The woman kind of, she came and she was very adamant about, she like noticed that I cut my locks off, and I needed I that she needed she I needed her more than she needed me, and just kind of like love bombed me at this time. Okay. And then things went left. I went from doing yoga, all right, to drinking. Okay. I started doing substances, if you know what I'm talking about, that I shouldn't have been doing. It just went down the drain. The abuser was able to make me feel like crap, but convince me that no one else would deal with me or my crap. Okay. Referring to this quote, you will allow what you feel you don't have, or that which you lack that you deserve. I don't deserve it. How many of us in the chat has been in a vulnerable place, right? Where, you know, people had came into our lives, right? And they should have been there to help us, assist us, and to heal us, but they actually came and made things even worse. But a lot of the times, and I'm going to break it down, when you're in a vulnerable place, you're in that in between area in your life. So you really don't you're not where you want to be, but you aspire to be somewhere that you want to go. So a lot of these times, abusers coming to our lives because we are in a very, like I said, very vulnerable state. And then that vulnerable state comes into that person being able to manipulate how they could go about it. Definitely, if you have money, or you have something that they want, or even jealousy. Sometimes people come in at a vulnerable time. They could sense, they want to kind of tear you down. So what they do is they come in and they try to act like they love you, or they're here for you, but they really aren't there for you. They really aren't there for your health and wellness. And prior to me cutting my locks off the first time, I was, when Tumblr was very popular, I was Tumblr famous. I was in fashion weeks. I was everywhere. Like literally, like people even spray painted me on buildings with the first set of locks that I had. And this one person, actually, this one woman that wanted to get with me was a person that actually had locks too. So people would say that we looked alike. I didn't personally see it. We had a lot of similarities, but we was not alike at all. She was more light skinned, I was brown skinned, stuff like that. But she came in, and when I read the signs now, I definitely should have just looked at it, but I was very young. So, sometimes when you're young, you don't really see things. You just, you kind of miss those red flags. So please look at the red flags definitely when you're in a vulnerable space. Okay. Peace, Olivia. There was a lot of red flags in that relationship, but like I said, I went from doing yoga, right? I had a certain pattern, and then it was just like the woman would come over in the morning time or stay at my house, and she would like bring beer and alcohol, and then she introduced me to certain substances that I should have never been even doing, definitely since I cut my locks off, I was very in a vulnerable state. We got into abuse. I was in an abusive relationship with her, to be honest, it was very toxic. It was toxic. I would fight her in public, you know, um, yeah, it is definitely. It was definitely very toxic. But like I said, when you're vulnerable, that's when the abusers come. The more self-love we have, the less we will experience self-abuse. Self-abuse, self-abuse comes from self-rejection, and self-rejection comes from having an image of what it means to be perfect and never measuring up to that ideal. How many of us have been um had to realize that we had to heal certain things within us, not being the best, not you had to kind of realize where you were at in your life so you could be able to be better. So a lot of the times when you start to love yourself, right, it definitely makes a difference. It just shows differently because then you notice that you won't tolerate certain things. And so here are some ways talking about self-love and being able to notice when you are in a higher perspective in this situation. Here are some healthy ways that you can know that you are gaining that self-love for yourself, and you start to really focus on you. Okay, you set healthy boundaries, you speak kindly to yourself, you prioritize self-care, you accept your authentic self. Right, a lot of the times when you are breaking these agreements, a lot of it comes from trauma, from family, not being reassured, right? So even though this person came into my life, it also was a very triggering time for me and my family. And usually that's how abusers are. Like, it's like everything is like a tower moment. Your family don't like this person, your job is going, like, there's sometimes people even go, like, get into drugs, homelessness and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exactly what happened. I let the person kind of take control of my career, take control of my life. And I lost a lot dealing with that person, this woman that I was dealing with at the time. This is the last woman I ever dated, by the way, respectfully. But it showed me a lot about myself. Um, when you accept your authentic self, it doesn't matter how other people feel, right? Because you love yourself. You have done the work within yourself to be able to move forward in your life. Okay, embracing your quirks and imperfections, right? A lot of the times when people are in that self-abuse, right, when they're see that they are self-abusing themselves, they don't accept themselves. They don't accept their imperfections, they don't accept their quirks. I remember, you know um, there was a lot of things that the woman would say to me, and this was new to me because out of all my years of being successful and becoming lit, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I've been in a lot of scenes, and conquered all those scenes, Capricorn shit. When this woman came into my life, she was able to kind of see the little things that I didn't really feel secure in myself, and really, like, poked. And that's when the spiral came down. That's that shadow. But the shadow is good. Shadow is good. You got to embrace these parts of yourself. That's why I'm speaking about this now, because for this to be the first agreement, well, the first chapter about self-abuse, like I said, a lot of it is just not about that partner. It's about you growing up and seeing the triggers. People are just reflections, that mirror image of you. So there was a lot of things that I had to realize that I needed to focus on. I was not as comfortable as I thought with myself, or my quirky ways and my imperfections. And I feel like, people that are negative, they will do a lot of poking and bringing that up so you could feel worse about yourself, and then get back into doing things, drinking, smoking, doing drugs or whatever. Even giving you drugs, giving you the alcohol, giving you these substances so you could stay down, and that's what the woman would do. She would bring me alcohol, she would bring me drugs, like self-sabotage me when I go out. Like if I have like an event, she'll come, she'll start drama, like she'll try to fight me at the event. It was crazy. The next one is stop seeking validation, right? Because a lot of the times when you focus on you just, it's like a sense of you just stop seeking the validation that you wanted. We all want to be heard, but when you have that self-love and you realize that you are staying away from being self-abused, your own self, you realize that these are some things that you decide you're not going to do. I'm not going to seek validation, definitely external. Practice gratitude, right? A lot of the times when you start to love yourself, you start to appreciate the littlest things. And I highlighted practice gratitude in my journal because that is so important. You start to appreciate the littlest things. That's how you know that you're starting to you have more self-love for yourself. You start to appreciate the little things that you have. You appreciate the little things that's happening with you. You start to practice gratitude. You trust yourself. All right. You start to trust yourself. You start to trust the things that you are doing. You celebrate the small wins. I always say that in all the lessons that I have. Celebrate your small wins. That's when you know that you're starting to self-love and start to self-appreciate certain things. You let go of comparisons. A lot of the times people try to compare you. Oh, you're not like this. Or, there's a lot of people that will try to trigger you by doing things like that, like compare you to other people or compare you to why you don't have this. And when you're on that journey of self-love, this is things that you definitely want to look into. Let go of the comparisons. And my book, actually, the book that I have, reassess this. Okay, this book, Breaking Barriers, it does make you reassess certain things. There's certain questions. All right, there's certain topics in there that makes you reassess where you're at. Do you really love yourself? There's some things that you need to work on. Do you compare yourself to another person? Do you compare yourself in this and that? Okay, you feel at peace. You attract healthier relationships, right? So a lot of the times when you start to self-love, you start to really focus on you and remove yourself from abuse, self-abuse, okay? And you start to really focus on attracting more healthier relationships, right? Because all of the things that I just said, you speak to yourself kindly, you prioritize self-care, you accept your authentic self, embracing your quirks and imperfections, you stop seeking external validation, you practice gratitude, you trust yourself, you celebrate your small wins, you let go of comparisons, you feel at peace, then that's when you start to attract more healthier relationships. Gratitude, you embrace growth and healing. I'm not there yet, but I appreciate the small wins, right? How can you know when you have been self-abused or you have been abusing yourself, and how you attract abusers? Let's talk about it. Signs of self-abuse: negative self-talk, neglecting self-care, tolerating disrespect, allow others to mistreat you, or disregard your feelings. How many of us have done that? Tolerate abuse, allow others to mistreat us, tolerate disrespect, people pleasing, and neglecting self-care. We all have had times in there's a chapter in Iyanla Vanzant's book, From Peace to Broken Pieces, one of my favorite books. I love Iyanla Vanzant. She's a Virgo, where she speaks about, usually when we are self-abusing ourselves, it's never just one, it's not just one experience. It's usually like a whole bunch of experiences that then it caves in and you realize, you find out that, damn, I am actually going through this abuse. I'm going through self-abusing myself. It's just not one experience, you guys. It's multiple experiences. If you look back, how or what was the signs of your self-abuse, of the negative self-talk, even negative mindsets, right? Pessimism, right? Neglecting yourself, your self-care, right? People pleasing, right? Trying to appease to other people, and then tolerating disrespect. We've all been here, we've all been here. Allowing others to mistreat you and disregard your feelings. That's a big one. Avoidance of healing, self-sabotage, procrastinating, settling for less, intentionally holding yourself back, engaging in harmful behaviors. So ask yourself, how or why self-abuse attracts abusers? How? Because these are questions that I ask myself. How do we attract self-abusers? How or why self-abuse attracts abusers? Low self-worth. If you don't value yourself, you will tolerate mistreatment. Going back to the first note that I spoke about, setting healthy boundaries, speaking kindly to yourself. How many of us have had low self-worth because you didn't value yourself and you have tolerated mistreatment in some type of way, shape, or form? If that was letting people take advantage of you, speak to you any type of way, call you out your name. You get what I'm saying? I'm sure your minds is going right now. Those experiences coming back up in the surface, right? You don't have to write in the comments. You don't. I want you to reflect on this. And like I said, my book, go get my book, y'all. This book will help you break those barriers, because these are questions that I ask. Familiar patterns, and this is what I was talking about, right? With even from Peace from Broken Pieces, from Iyanla Vanzant. Neglect from family. Neglect from family. Feeling like you should have had enough. Feeling like you should have had more attention. Feeling like you should have had more motivation. And so that also makes you abuse yourself in some type of way, because if you didn't get it from the people that should have loved you, or if you didn't get it from the people that should have been there for you, then how can you see yourself doing anything? So that goes back to the people pleasing. That goes back into, needing validation from others. And sometimes that is the hardest to break. That is the hardest agreement to break, because the agreement goes down to us being domesticated, right? And our domestication comes from our parents or the people that raised you, right? They have domesticated you into becoming this way. So now breaking the agreements of fear-based means that you have to first understand what brought you there. And it's uncomfortable. It's ripping off the Band-Aid. That's ripping off the Band-Aid and realizing here, like, damn, I let this happen. I was that desperate. I was that I was at that lowest. I didn't treat my body right. I didn't treat myself right. I didn't understand where I was going. I want you guys, if you can, write yourself a letter. Write yourself a letter at the time that you was at the lowest. That's going to give you closure. If that was when you was 14, 15, 16, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 21, 33, whenever it is, write yourself that letter at the worst time of your life where you realize that you have let yourself go. That you didn't have the self-worth. If that is meaning even writing to a family member that made you feel this way, or family members or situations, circumstances, feeling like you was not supported, neglect from your family. Energetic vibration. Self-abuse creates an energy of lack or insecurity, which can attract people who prey on those vulnerable. At one point, we have to take accountability on our own energetic vibration. You have to take accountability on our energetic vibration. Because self-abuse creates an energy of lack or insecurity, which can then attract people who prey on those who are vulnerable. At one point in your life, was you, even if you, what vibration was you bringing out, attracting to where people were able to abuse you? Here's another one. Fear of being alone. People are scared to be alone. But do you know that is a sign of self-abuse? Because you can't be alone. Fear of loneliness may lead you to accepting relationships with people who don't treat you well. With people who don't treat you well, prioritizing companionship over self-respect. Some of us, you don't have to say in the chat, like I said, at one point in your life, were you fear of being alone? And how did that energetic vibration attract people who preyed on your vulnerability? How did that attraction of not being self-respecting of your own self, prioritizing companionship over self-respect, how did that attract? People who fear to be alone will do anything because they don't want to be alone. They will prioritize companionship over self-respect. Unhealed trauma. Past wounds might make you subconsciously seek relationships that mirrored unresolved pain. That's why, even though that one relationship with the woman that I was with at that time, it showed me a lot about that mirror of unresolved pain. Sometimes we do so good at hiding. We put this wall up so you don't ever have to feel those pains again of feeling neglected, showing people that vulnerability, showing that insecurity. That what happens is that you're actually energetically vibrating and attracting more of the praise into your life. Yes, that's why my book, Breaking Barriers, I speak about reassessment of relationships, about our families, of how we see things. And here's the thing: not only do we have just one single agreement, but we have many that makes us suffer. The agreement of suffering, the agreement of compromise, the agreement of harmful behaviors, self-sabotage, avoidance of healing, holding yourself back, intentionally holding yourself back, feeling like you don't deserve something, not setting boundaries for yourself, not taking care of yourself. These are all agreements. This is just not one agreement. These are multiple agreements that we need to break to reclaim your personal power. So how do we break the cycles? How do we break these cycles? Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledging the pain. Finding the root. You know, sometimes people don't remember because they don't want to remember, because it's so painful. It hurts so bad that some people are not willing to go back to the roots. But you got to go to the root. You got to dig it up and you got to remove it. Chop it down. Remove the root. You got to acknowledge the pain first. Because when you acknowledge the pain, nobody else can bring that back up, you know? Nobody can tell me certain things because I know it within myself. But if you don't acknowledge that pain, you're going to keep on running. Admit to yourself where you've been neglecting or harming yourself. Is it by fearing to be alone? Is it that low self-worth? Is it that self-sabotaging? Is it avoidance of healing? Is it... Rewatch this video. But you need to admit to yourself first where you've been neglecting or harming yourself. See, I could tell you where the neglect come from. But you have to admit to yourself where this comes from. Where did the root start from? Was it from a family member? Was it not being loved enough? Was it not being acknowledged? You have to say that. You have to do that. You have to acknowledge the pain. How do you break the cycle? How do you break those barriers? By self-assessing. That's why I wrote my book, Breaking Barriers. It's a self-assessment. I use psychology and I use quantum physics while writing that book. Another thing, self-compassion. Speak love to yourself. I was actually reading this quantum physics book yesterday, right? Let me pull it up because I had highlighted some things last night. Let me just put a bookmark here. And when it spoke about broadcasting love. If you're having difficulties with a situation or another person, sending love energy in the direction is very valuable tool for resolution. Begin by thinking of what you're dealing with, and then relax and gently sending love energy there. Move out of all negativity, such as anger, fear. Just release it and let it go. Then replace it with the word love. Take a few deep breaths and just repeat love, over and over and over again. You may resist this if you're dealing with an abrasive person or a difficult problem, but let that opposition go. When you learn to have and speak love to yourself, there's going to be parts of you that's going to feel very uncomfortable. You're going to start to feel irritated. You're going to feel agitated. It's just like when your body doesn't like something, right? Like if your body don't like dairy, then you're going to get rashes. Your stomach starts to hurt. Your body doesn't feel comfortable when you put something here that does not want to be in your body. This is coming out of your body and it's going to feel uncomfortable. Okay, it's not going to be comfortable. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but you have to send love to yourself. Self-compassion, speak love into yourself. Love that part of you that you didn't love. And remember, and Queen Afua speaks about it a lot, right? I love Queen Afua. In her book, she speaks about, imagine how much years we have put our bodies through suffering. You can't expect just one day of you acknowledging the fact that you have went through all of this suffering and went through all of this self-abuse that is going to just be all of a sudden healed. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes 2 years, 3 years. For 12, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, the older it is, the older you are, the more of the toxicity, and the more that you realize how much you have had suffering and dis-ease and self-abuse that was in your body, in your blood. So speak love to yourself. Breathe and send love into the places that feel uncomfortable. Send love there, because it will feel uncomfortable. But this is how you're going to break the cycle. Set boundaries. Learn to say no and walk away from toxic relationships. I speak about this a lot. The last lesson I had, and it's going to be in the same category, in the same group, of Saturn lesson, speaks about not everything needs to be spoken back to. Sometimes when a person is toxic, they want you to, like I said, they want you to get toxic with them. They need somebody to feed off of. So they try to feed off of you by getting you to say things or getting you to kind of respond. And if somebody here is toxic, why are you even entertaining something here that's toxic? The more that you start to love yourself and you start to break those cycles, you realize that you don't need to speak. You don't have to respond back. That you don't always have to respond to the negativity. That you don't always have to say something back to somebody that's toxic. Let them be toxic. Let them. Walk away. And let them deal with that if they choose to. If it's not for your health and wellness, walk away. Pay attention to the signs when people interrupt you. As soon as I have a conversation with somebody here and they interrupt me multiple times in one session, I'm cutting them off because you're not listening to me. You want to, like I said, people that want to be heard, they're trying to find a way so they could just be able to shut you down. That happened to me the other day. I was talking to this person on the phone. I'm trying to build. The person keeps on cutting me off. That was the last time that person spoke to me. Because you're not listening. This is not a conversation. This is you want to hear yourself speak. That's toxic. People who can't listen to you and just want to be heard, that they need validation. Let them go. You could learn a lot about a person's conversation If they're willing to listen to you, how do they react? Just pay attention. It's right there. Toxic people, people who prey on the vulnerable, they always want to be heard. They'll cut you off in mid-sentence, try to downplay what you're saying just for them to re-say it again. Cut those people off. That's toxic relationships. I pay attention to the details. That's Virgo. 9 times out of 10, those who are abusers are always cutting you off in mid-sentence. They're narcissistic and they want to be heard. They want to be the one that's smarter than you. They want to make it seem like what they're saying is better than what you're saying, even though what you're saying is better than theirs. Cut it off. Reprogram your beliefs. Check out my book, Shadow Work. My book helps with reassessing yourself and your relationships. Surround yourself with supportive people. Seek relationships with those who respect, uplift, and care for you. And celebrate your small wins. So you guys, that's all I have for you for today. I wrote that yesterday. It took me the whole day for me to write that up, because I felt so inclined by just that one paragraph to write me a whole lesson on breaking the agreements of fear-based and claiming your personal power. 9 times out of 10, a lot of the people that are abusers or people that are trying to take away your power feel powerless. They need weak people. And as soon as you start to build yourself up and doing the spiritual work and start focusing on you, they'll leave because they can't fathom the fact that somebody that once was maybe at a vulnerable space is now being stronger. And then when they try to kind of bring you back to that place, they realize that they can't bring you back to that place because you've been very resilient. You've learned, you've grown. Okay. So yes, you guys, that's all I have for you guys. Please share with a friend. Okay, I will change the name of this. I noticed that it says breaking agreements. But yes, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. You said you received your copy. All right. Yes. Listen, go to Amazon, or like I said, if you are going to be in Atlanta, please go check out my book, Breaking Barriers. All right. It's a guided journal for emotional and mental growth. It is not a real book. It's just a journal. It has prompts that you could be able to reassess and self-assess and be able to have those conversations with others. I highly recommend that you use that book for everything. How to use the book when it comes down to building relationships with people, partnerships. You need to know where the people that you're going to be dealing with at. And once you start seeing those red flags, then you already know that's not the person that I want in my life. All right. So with that being said, you guys, that's all I have for you guys at this time. I'm going to go to work now. I got some things to do. And I'll speak to you guys later. Peace and love. Go get you your book on Amazon, or wait for me until I get to Atlanta, Georgia to get your book signed. Okay? I love you. Peace and love. And I'll speak to you later. Have a good one. I needed it too, girl. All right, y'all. Later.